I went on a trip to a couple different events, and I was gonna bring y'all this footage and this content from these events. This is the first one that I'm gonna put out there. It's a speaker. You know, I really like the fact that out of all of you know, like I was saying in my other video, out of all of the people that was headliners and everything, that even the guys who was in between had so much value. And what I did was I compiled about 3 or 4. As I'm talking, I haven't even finished it, so maybe 5, 6. I'm gonna just put as many of them as I can together, and I'm gonna build it up to like a climax and let y'all guys see like the ones that, you know, I feel in like the chronological order of who had them the fire. Well, they all had the fire, but you know, the build up for me, that was what I like. You know, I have a blessing came my way. You know, I'm gonna put the video up too. It was a time when I had some sponsorship going on, and I was like really relying on it, and it fell through, and I ended up having to do some different things. Like I had to do some recycling, and I did a move or two, and just had to like do some things outside of my normal realm of what I do financially in order to get some equipment. And needless to say, I didn't get the equipment that I would have gotten if a sponsor would have been involved. So I had to like, and man, God bless me, man, with good people around me. And I got a sponsor that's gonna sponsor me with some equipment. And I'm gonna unbox it. I'm gonna do an unboxing, and it's gonna be sponsored by, you know, my sponsor, you know, one of my sponsors. It just feel good to know that there's people that get behind what you're doing, you know. And I don't gotta say no names yet, because I ain't got clearance to say no name, but you know who you are, and I appreciate you, big time, big time. And you are very much a big part of what I'm doing. Yeah. And with that being said, without further ado, I'm gonna go and let y'all see this video.
Make it, sell it, build awareness. Make it, sell it, build awareness. And I would, like everything else was sort of, you know, I'd figure things out that needed to get done, but I made sure that that's where my energy was going, and any kind of resources I had would go to those 3 things. But I fumbled my way through it. You guys know being an entrepreneur is like jumping off a cliff and assembling the plane on the way down, right? There's never the right time. You have to leap, and you learn as you go. So I can share a few stories with you of me learning as I go that will just show you, yes, she really had no idea what she was doing. But the first thing that I did was had to get it made. So I went on the internet and I found out that a lot of these manufacturers are in North Carolina. I took my only week of vacation selling fax machines and drove around North Carolina, begging a bunch of people that are in these factories to help make my idea, because I already had the idea, but I needed to get it made. I ended up finding a factory owner in Charlotte that helped make my idea. He turned me away at first, everybody turned me away, and then he changed his mind, and when I asked him why, he said, I have 3 daughters, and I ran the idea by them because he thought I was crazy, and they said, Dad, you should help this girl make this idea. I could actually use an undergarment like this. And I wrote my own patent. I went to Barnes & Noble on Peachtree and bought a book called Trademarks and Patents. I wrote the patent, and I didn't know the legal part of the patent, so I went to a lawyer and begged him to do the claims portion for a discounted price, which he did. He later admitted to me he thought I'd been sent by Candid Camera. He really did. He's like, I thought my friends were punking me because, you know, you walked in with your old red backpack and whipped pantyhose out with no feet and said you were going to change the world. And then I'll tell you, trying to get it made. So I went and landed Neiman Marcus. I flew to Dallas after I had the product made and cold called Neiman's. But getting the product made was crazy. I spent 2 years going at night and on the weekends to North Carolina. And one guy named Ted worked in the back of the factory, and Ted was so Southern, you guys. And my patent lawyer was like, Sarah, I need to know what's in the product technically to finish the patent. And I'm like, well, we got to call Ted for that. And Ted talked like, I mean, he was so Southern. So I'm on the phone with Ted and my lawyer, and I'm like, Ted, what's in Spanx exactly? And he's like, well, it's 70% nylon and 30% lacquer. And I was like, all right, my lawyer and I are taking notes. And the night before I submit my patent to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, I'm up all night and I'm like, how is there lacquer in this product? And I called Ted the next morning before we submitted it. And I said, Ted, can you spell lacquer? And he's like, yeah, L-Y-C-R-A. I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much more sense. We changed it at last minute. I mean, I'm telling you. And then, like, I got the order from Neiman Marcus. I flew to Dallas. The lady gave me 15 minutes of her time. I could tell I was losing her in the meeting. I took her to the bathroom, asked her to come with me, showed her with my product under the white pants and without. And when I called the factory owner and said, Sam, I just landed Neiman Marcus. I'm going to need more Spanx. He first of all, he said, was silent, and he told me he thought I was going to give these as holiday gifts for 4 years. He's like, you did what? I'm like, I landed Neiman Marcus, and I need more. And he said, okay, well, I'm going to patch you through to Ted. And I remember saying to Ted, I just landed Neiman Marcus, and I need more Spanx. And he said, well, that's fine, but what you going to do about the crotches? Seriously, I said, what do you mean crotches? Like, they come with a crotch. We've been making them with crotches. He's like, yeah, I know, but there's only 2 crotch machines and they're being used by somebody else. And I was like, I just landed Neiman Marcus and I have no crotches. I was like, where do you even go for a crotch? So I remember I looked in the yellow pages and I under crotch and it's not there.
Don't Google it either.
It's not there, you guys. So then I was like, oh, I found out there's a fancy word for crotch called gusset, and that helped my search. And I had like crotches being FedEx from all over the world. My roommate, who was a teacher, was like, you got another crotch in the mail. And then I ended up finding a crotch company in Norcross, Georgia, and the man who saved the day, his name was Gene Bobo. And I can't even, he saved the day, delivered crotches, went to Neiman's, and Spanx was on the shelves.
From law school to creating $1 billion Spanx.
Well, listen, my path to starting Spanx was really sort of unconventional. I had never taken a business class, and I had never worked in fashion or retail. I actually wanted to be a lawyer. And growing up, my dad was a trial attorney, and I used to leave school and watch him in closing arguments. And I'd say, Dad, this is what I want to do when I grow up. And it turns out that I'm a really bad test taker because I took the LSAT, which is the entrance exam to get into law school, after my whole childhood saying, like, that's what I'm going to do. And I bombed the LSAT. And so I took a prep course. I took it a second time, you guys. And the second time I bombed it. And that kind of derailed my dream and what I thought I was going to do, which was go to law school and be a lawyer like my dad. And those moments I just want to call out because that was a super devastating moment for me. But life had other plans that I wasn't aware of. And like, we're all living our life. We don't get to see the whole movie, right? We just see the scene we're in. And I say that a lot of times those things that seem like failures are life's way of nudging you and just letting you know you're off course. Because had I become a lawyer, Spanx wouldn't exist. And, so that was meant to happen. But what happened then after that, Dan, was I didn't do well on the LSAT. And so I got in my car after graduating from college and drove to Disney World and tried out to be Goofy. Yep. And I went through this whole tryout. You have to be 5'8" in order to be Goofy, and I'm 5'6". And what I didn't know at Disney World is that whatever height you are is the costume height. And so I went through the tryout. I wanted to be Goofy. I made the part. They put me up against a wall, and my head was the perfect height of a chipmunk. So I ended up working at Disney World for 3 months and left there and sold fax machines door to door in Clearwater, Florida, where I grew up. And I did that, has anybody here ever cold called?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
So I did that for 7 years. I always bow to people who've done it before because it's really humbling. And I would get kicked out of office buildings. I'd be escorted out. People would rip up my business card. And after one particularly really hard day of selling fax machines, I pulled off the side of the road and I just thought to myself, I'm in the wrong movie. Like, call the director, call the writer, call the producer, cut, this is not my life. And I ended up going home that night and wrote in my journal, Sarah, what are you good at? Like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? If this is not your life and your movie, what is? And I wrote sales was the only thing I felt I was good at. And then I asked myself a really important question. I said, why? Why do I like it? Why am I good at it? And I realized in that one question of asking myself why, that I liked giving something to people that they needed or that could help their life. And the fax machines I was selling were helping people's businesses, but I wasn't inspired by the fax. So I wrote down in my journal that night, I am going to invent a product of my own that I can sell to millions of people that will make them feel good. And thank you. And that was the start for me. It was that moment of clarifying that. And then I remember looking up in my apartment and saying to the universe, please give me the idea and I won't squander it. And 2 years later, I cut the feet out of control top pantyhose to wear under slacks to a party in Atlanta, in Buckhead. So I didn't have a panty line, and then I was like, maybe that's the idea I asked for. So for 20 years, the soundbite in the media was Sarah cut the feet out of her pantyhose and voila, Spanx started. And it was like, no, I had set intention prior to that. I had been really specific about visualizing and talking about what I wanted. And this image is just of how it started and how it's going. This was in my apartment in Virginia Highlands where I started Spanx. And I went and had a sign made at Kinko's, and I would hang it in my apartment bedroom where my headquarters was, and it kept falling. And then, 20 years later, Spanx is now made of much sturdier material on the top of a building.
At this point, when you had the aha moment, I'm going to change the movie.
And the common theme throughout my 20s is the same thing. I poured my soul into everything I did. I emptied the tank, man. Not everything worked, but when you empty the tank, you have no regrets. And I created an environment in my head as an entrepreneur that if I'm gonna show up, we are gonna show up, I'm showing up with soul. Pour your soul into everything you do. When I started out business at Marquis Jet, we had no sophisticated way to get leads. I had to go to where wealthy people congregated. Back in the 90s, we didn't have a sophisticated way to get leads. And I heard about a conference in Monterey, California called TED. And I heard that a lot of wealthy people from Silicon Valley go to the TED conference. So I got on a plane, connected to Chicago, landed in LA, and rented a car to Monterey, California. When I got to the TED conference, I realized immediately that everybody there had a huge credential. I'm like, you need a credential to get into the TED Talks? It's ridiculous. That's the dumbest rule I ever heard. So I go to this coffee shop thinking to myself, how in the world am I going to sneak into the room where all the gold is? Where all the qualified buyers are? Who am I going to pay off at the door to let me in? Whose badge am I going to steal? Whatever, I got to get in the room where the gold is. I'm sitting in the coffee shop, and I realize that every 2 hours, a wave of people with these credentials come in. They all come in. They're on their break from the TED Talk, and they're all buying lattes and muffins. Lattes and muffins. Lattes and muffins.
Oh yeah, latte.
So the next morning, I wake up at 5 o'clock, I go to the coffee shop, and I buy all the muffins. I now control all the muffin inventory in Monterey, California, and I wait. Sure enough, an hour and a half later, the first wave of people come in. The first guy's got a credential. He orders a latte and a muffin. The lady says, "Sir, we can give you a latte, but we're all out of muffins." He's like, "All out of muffins?" And she says, "Yeah, we're getting another shipment at 12 o'clock. He starts walking. "Excuse me, overheard you. I happen to have an extra muffin if you want a muffin." He's like, "You have an extra muffin?" I'm thinking to myself, I got 100 and fucking You want a muffin? He said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm here for the TED conference." He goes, "So am I." I said, "Get out of here." He said, "What do you do?" I said, "I have a private jet company called Marquis Jet." He said, "You gotta be kidding me. I'm in the market for a private jet card." He goes, "Do you mind if I sit down and eat my muffin and talk to you about this?" I was like, "Absolutely not, Mr. Qualified. Sit right here." I look at his name tag, it says Josh Koppelman, and I recognize the name. He was in the Wall Street Journal the week before. He just sold his company, half.com, to eBay for $1 bazillion.
Good.
He was my first sale. That's not a story of me being a good salesman. I'm not. I'm back of the pack sales. I'm back of the pack everything.
That's all.
That's a story of me as an entrepreneur, putting myself in a situation where I can attract luck. Luck doesn't happen Sunday night watching the Kardashians on your couch. Luck happens when you put yourself in a situation where the universe can reward you for being there, and then you gotta be really good at what you do. But that's not why I'm sharing this story. The reason why I wanna share the story is what happened after. I did what everybody in this room would do. I did what everybody in my industry was doing. But I did a little bit extra too. While everybody in my industry was playing a 9-inning game, I played a 10-inning game. I did the unexpected. He expected me to carry his bags at the airport to the airplane. He expected me to return every call, every DM, of course. But I did the unexpected too. He didn't expect. When he went to Mexico, "Josh, man, here's a list of 10 pediatricians. I vetted them all. I know your children are on the trip. Here's a list of 10 pediatricians. God forbid something happens to one of your kids. I got you, man. Just call one of these doctors." I made reservations at every hot restaurant at 8 o'clock for 2. "Josh, I know it's spring break, man, but you and your wife, anywhere you want to go, we got you covered. 8 o'clock for 2. I did the 3 things I've done my entire career to build deep, authentic, meaningful relationships this side with everybody in my inner circle. My kids, my family, my clients, my prospects, my teammates, my friends. I compliment, I congratulate, and I console them. What's your name, my friend? Ryan? Myron? Myron, it's Jesse Isler. Man, we've been friends for 11 years. I've known you for 11 years. I just want to let you know, man, I love the way you parent. You're an unbelievable dad. As a father of 4, I just want you to know, man, I really look up to you for the way you go through life as a dad. I just want you to know that. I congratulate. Marvin, I heard your kids got into Duke University. I have 4 kids, man, if my kids get into Duke University, I'll be on cloud 9. Me and Sarah and our family are on cloud 9 for you and for your family, and I console. I have one of the worst things that can happen to a parent happen, period. The next day I get a knock on my door. It's my friend Dougie Fresh the rapper. I said, "Doug, what are you doing here?" He said, "When you get news like that, you don't call, you show up." If you have somebody in your life that's grieving and you don't reach out to them, they'll never forget it. Ever. 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 So a crazy thing happened. I started complimenting, congratulating, consoling, complimenting Myron, and after a couple of months, guess what? He gave me the magic word. He gave me a referral. And when my business had a downtick, he stuck with me. He rooted for me. Business can be transactional. Relationships can't. And when you build deep, authentic, meaningful relationships with the people in your inner circle, the floodgates open. The floodgates open. You operate with soul. You compliment, congratulate, and console to get people into your life, make them friends, believe in you. You show up in places where you can get lucky, and magical things happen. How many people here, out of curiosity, how many people here think they're gonna die? Sounds funny, right? Follow-up question. How many people in this room have your graveyard plot picked out? 4? 5. So wait, everybody in this room knows they're gonna die, but nobody thinks it could possibly happen anytime soon? No, because if you did, you'd be responsible. You'd have your graveyard plot picked out. You give all of your passcodes to your significant others. You would be prepared, you'd be responsible. Your relationship with time is out of whack. You think you have all the time in the world to make changes in your business, to make changes in your life. I'll do it next year. I'll take the trip next year. It doesn't work like that, man. Until you realize that you can walk out of this convention center, someone can get texting, and bam, you get hit by a Mack truck. Until you realize that you can wake up and get diagnosed. I'm at the age where my friends are waking up getting diagnosed with stuff. Until you realize that can happen, you're not living with true urgency. The way I think about time is like this. Come on, Wiz. The day you wake up, Myron, you go on this bus ride. The key goes in, the bus starts going. Myron, you got the steering wheel. Off we go. You don't need me to tell you life goes fast. Everybody in here knows life goes fast. All the money, all of a sudden, Myron's a senior in high school. They're like, you better enjoy it, Myron. Last year, it's gonna go fast. The bus is rolling. The bus doesn't care if you get sick. There's no reverse on the bus. You can't slow it down. Myron graduates, he meets somebody. He has a child at the age of 10. He's gonna be an empty nester in 8 years. The bus is rolling. It doesn't care if you get COVID. It doesn't care if you're lazy. And then one day, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the bus stops. Like the whole thing is over. I'm 55 years old, man. This much of my life is done. I don't own a Marquis Jet hat. I don't own a Zico hat. That's done. I did it. It's done. I don't care if you had a great year last year or a terrible year. I don't care if you're broke, overweight, divorced. It doesn't matter to me. And it shouldn't matter to you. All that should matter is from this moment on till the end of the bus ride, how do we maximize that? How do we squeeze, forget the past. How do we squeeze the most out of life right now? How many people here know how many hours there are in a year? I'll help you. 8,760 hours in a year. The average American, there's 8,760 hours in a year. The average American works 40 hours a week for 50 weeks. That's 2,000 of the 8,700 hours. Myron, you gotta sleep, right? You sleep 6-7 hours? Yeah, that's 2,500 of the 8,700. That's 4,500 of the 8,700. We gotta eat 3 meals a day, 30 minutes, something like that, a meal, maybe take more. That's 500 hours. That's 5,000 of the 8,700 hours. The average American adult in this room spends about 1,500 hours a year on Netflix, social media, devices, phone, movies. That's 6,500. 75% of your of your available time, and all you did was eat, sleep, work, and been on your phone. You better be really diligent with the other 25% of your time while you're building your empire. You better be really diligent with the other 25% of your time while you're busy building your empire. When I turned 50, I made a promise to myself. This side, I'm gonna put more on my plate of the things I love to do with the people I love to do them with. Because when I was in my 20s, my mother had a dream. She wanted to go to London, to a castle in London with her family. I'm like, Mom, I got a record deal. Go to London? I can't go to London right now. My 30s, my mom's like, let's go to London. I'm like, Mom, I got Marquis Jet. I'm working 21-hour days. I can't go cats in the cradle shit. Cats in the cradle shit. In my 40s, my mom's like, let's go to London to the castle. I'm like, I got 4 kids. I can't go to London. And in my 50s, my mom can't go. So while you're building your business and your empire, when you have a chance to create a memory or a moment, you take it. When you have a chance to create a memory or a moment, you take it. Show of hands again. How many people here have kids? Kids, all right, yeah, my son, I have 4 kids. We live here in Atlanta, Sarah and I, not far from here. My son, when he was 11, came over to me and said, Dad, I want to play baseball. We're not a baseball family. We live in Atlanta. It's a baseball town. The kids, by the time they're 11, in Atlanta are so good at baseball, they're either on a travel team or they play for the Atlanta Braves. But my son wants to play and I don't want to like take away his dream. So I called the commissioner. I'm like, maybe there's a developmental league. I call the commissioner, I get him on the phone, and he says to me, if you want your son to play in the developmental league, put him with the 4-year-olds. I'm like, if you want your son to put him with the 4-year-olds. I said to my son, are you sure you want to do this? He goes, I want to do it. I said, son, let's start with the fundamentals. This is first base over here. The second baseman plays right over here. The third baseman plays over here. In between second and third, that's the shortstop. We got the right fielder there, the center fielder, left fielder's behind me. I know for a fact, my son knew there were 3 outs in baseball. There's no way he knew that there were 4 balls in this wall. He goes to tryouts. He comes back from tryouts. Sarah took him. I couldn't even take it. I was so nervous. Sarah takes him. He comes back, but he's 11, so he doesn't really communicate. His name is Laser. I go, Laze. And he's fine with me sharing this. I go, how was tryouts? He goes, good. It was good. Then he goes to his room. I find out the next day it wasn't good. He was the last pick. He wasn't even the last pick. It was like at the end of the draft, like, you go here, you Laser, you're over here. I get an email that they have the first practice on Saturday. So I take him to the practice. I get to the practice, it's so, all the kids at the practice, it's so intense. All the kids have baseball names. Chipper, Bo, for like Bo Jackson. I mean, like, it's Hank for Hank Aaron. And the dads, tobacco, baseball tattoos and shit. I'm like, what? They line the kids up on the third base line with one kid at first for the first drill. The first kid, Chipper, they hit a ground ball to Chipper. He whips it to first base. Right to the first baseman's glove. I look at my son, he's like this. The next kid, Bo, backhands the ball, picks it up cleanly, whips it to first base. Right to the first baseman's glove. I look at my son, he looks at me, I go, we're fucked. They hit the ball to my son who's up next. He bobbles it, he like gets it, he knocks it down. He must be watching like highlight videos on YouTube. He highlights the ball over to the first baseman and practice. At the end of practice, I pull him over, I said, son, you have a decision to make. You're either gonna get radically bullied. These kids are vicious, man. Or you can make a decision to be the best teammate you can be. You can show up early and leave late. You can celebrate everybody's wins. You can pick people up. You can hustle the hardest. And the kids will rally around you because they know you've never played this before. You have an opportunity to be an inspiration to the entire team. We go to the first game. They put my son in left field. I am praying to the baseball gods that they don't hit the ball to left field. Fortunately, they don't. My son gets up, he strikes out 3 times on 3 pitches. This goes on for 4 weeks. In week 4, we have 1 goal, get a base hit. My son is up. Now the whole team is on the bench. They're standing up against the fence chanting, Laser, 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 because he's done all the things that I talked about. They're rooting for him. He gets up, the pitcher pitches the ball, he makes contact with the ball. The ball goes down the first base line, he flies to first base, he comes up first base, he's going absolutely berserk, it's a foul ball. Am I out? No, you're up again. Out, you're up. One more, you're up. He comes up the next pitch, he hits a little dinker in between the catcher and the first base. He runs the pitcher, he runs to first. Everybody clears the bench, he gets his first hit. We make it all the way to the championship game. 8 o'clock at night. Is Atlanta in the house? 8 o'clock at night. Chastain Park, under the lights. The entire town is there. My son's team is up 1 run in the bottom of the last inning. The other team has bases loaded, 2 outs. My son is in left field. They haven't hit a ball to left field the entire year. This jackass gets up and he hits a pop ball to left field. My son gets underneath the ball. He's positioned his feet. He's watching the ball. All the kids that are running have stopped. And they're looking to see if my son catches the ball and we swarm him and we win the championship, or he drops the ball and they swarm the field and they win the championship. The ball is in the air. It's coming into my son's glove. He's watching it. I'm throwing up. Throwing up. The ball is coming down, he's lined up perfectly, and it lands 4 feet to the right. Foul ball. Foul ball! Statistically impossible that they can hit another ball to left field. I never trusted statistics. The jackass hits the ball to left field. Only this time it's 4 feet in fair territory. But this time, my son has changed his feet. He's lined himself up perfectly. He's underneath the ball. He has better positioning. I'm sitting over here, watching the ball go up to its apex and using every ounce of energy to redirect the ball into his mitt. The ball comes, it's coming right under him. He moves a little bit closer. He's underneath the ball, and just when it's gonna hit his mitt, stop! Who thinks he dropped it? You think my son dropped the ball? Asshole! Security! Get out of here. It's my son, man. We've been so conditioned to put so much emphasis on the results of events. Events don't define us. They're just events. They're just events. They don't define us. And when I look back on my journey as an entrepreneur, what I'm most proud of in my business journey is that despite having no experience in aviation, coconut water, music, nothing, I put myself out in the field. And to see my son at 11 years old put his entire childhood legacy on the line was so rewarding. My son chose to be a participant in life and not a spectator. Don't sit on the sidelines in your business. Don't worry about events. They don't define you. They don't all work out. I always tell people in my inner circle, if you want to have an exceptional life, you got to put yourself in exceptional situations. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. He dropped it. Still an asshole. I'm hustling. The reason why people come to conferences like this, at the end of the day, people want one thing, and it's mindset. I learned a mindset hack a couple of years ago that changed the trajectory of my life. Nothing in the last 10 years has had a bigger impact on my life and my kids' life than what I'm going to share with you right now. You can master it in 5 minutes or less. You can teach it to your kids in 5 minutes or less. You can walk out of here using it in 5 minutes or less. And what I'm about to share with you right now, if they told me 10 years ago, I'd say ridiculous, but I'm telling you, it's had the biggest impact on my team, my family, and myself. So I'm an endurance athlete. A couple of years ago, I was training for an endurance race called the Last Man Standing. Here's the format of the race. It's a 4.2 mile loop. You got an hour to run. If you finish the loop in like 15 minutes, you have a 10-minute break. Then they line you up at the starting line of the 4.2 mile loop again at the top of the hour. And they repeat that process over and over until one person's left standing. The last man standing. The race can go on for days. So during my training, I did 10 training runs of 38 miles. And every time I got to 38 miles, I'm like, that's my limit, 38 miles. I stopped. I'm like, not bad for a guy in his 50s. But that's not gonna get you very far in a race like this. And then I heard on a podcast, I was listening to a podcast, I heard a Navy SEAL, a guy by the name of Sharon Wright. And on the podcast, he's talking about how he medicated the starting line of a 100-mile race and had him run all the way to the finish line. He'd only run 5 miles in his life. All the way to the finish line of a 100-mile race by having him repeat, I will not quit, I will not quit, I will not quit. I'm like, that's impossible, man. Nobody can 20x their longest run. I've been running my whole life. But this guy's a Navy SEAL on a highly reputable podcast. I doubt he's lying. So I cold call him, create your own luck. I get him on the phone. I tell him my problem. He says, brother, I can solve this for you in 2 days, man. See, Chad is a Navy SEAL from the backwoods of North Georgia. He's got a beard down here like he's in ZZ Top. He's covered head to toe in tattoos, and he got a look in his eye like he's seen some stuff in the military that nobody here would want to see. So next week he comes to my house. My friends are calling me up like, did you change your cadence? Are you eating differently? Like, what's the secret sauce? I said, no, he hasn't said a word to me. They're like, what am I doing? He's sitting in the corner of my room, stroking his beard, hysterically laughing at me. They're like, what? I'm like, yes, and he's spooky. This is Chad Wright. Sarah pulls me aside. She's like, oh, Jess, can I talk to you? Sweetie, where did you meet Chad? I'm like, on the internet. So finally at dinner that night, he talks to me, he says, Jesse, tomorrow we're gonna start at 0500, man. But we're gonna meet in the kitchen at 4:45 and go over the game plan, man. I'm like, we're gonna meet for 15 minutes? Okay. The next morning we get to my breakfast table. He says, Jesse, today we're gonna do 3 things and 3 things only, man. And if you do these 3 things, you're gonna shatter your 100-mile, your 38 miles. He said, the first thing we're gonna do is we're never gonna give our pain a voice. What does that mean, Chad? He says, I know you're gonna be thinking, this is hard, I'm tired, I got blisters, or in your case, I'm not good at sales, we don't come from money, I don't have enough experience. I know you're gonna have those thoughts, but we're never gonna speak the words. Because if we speak those words, we give them power. If I ask you how you feel today, your only answer is outstanding. How do you feel? Outstanding. How do you feel? Outstanding. How do you feel? Outstanding. Number 2, we're never gonna die in a chair. I said, what does that mean, Chad? He says, we're never gonna come back after one of these loops and sit in the chair and say I quit. Today we're taking quitting off the table. Either we're gonna empty the tank, pour our soul into it, and we don't get our goal, which is okay, events don't define us, or we're gonna be successful. Either one of those is acceptable, but we're not gonna quit. And number 3, every time we come back, man, even though you might think it's hard in the field, business is hard, life is hard, we got a lot to be thankful for. We're at Aspire, man, with amazing speakers. We're healthy, we can see. Every time we come back, I want you to say one thing you're grateful for. We're not gonna forget what we're grateful for. So I did those 3 things, and that day I shattered my 38 miles. Fast forward 30 days later, I'm at the start of the Hennepin 100-mile race. Chad Wright's running it with me. I get to mile 74 and I'm broken. I got 6 toenails floating around in my shoe. I have hypothermia, I'm freezing, and the end is near, and Chad can sense it. I start walking, he starts walking with me. He says, Jess, I'm gonna tell you something about me, man, that nobody knows, man. It's a miracle, dude. I never get tired. No, not now, Chad. He says, no, man, I can't explain it either. It's the craziest thing I want you to say. But I was so broken, I couldn't say it. He says, no, fine, Chad, I never get tired. I said, no, man, say it like you mean it. Fine, Chad. I never get tired. He said, I'll tell you what, man, I'm gonna let you walk a quarter mile to the aid station. When we get to the aid station, you tell them the miracle of Jesse and Chad. We walk up to the aid station, I stumble in, they give me a little soup, they give Chad a little drink. I said, ma'am, to the volunteer, I'm Jesse. This is my great friend Chad. This might sound crazy, but Chad and I don't get tired. I look like I just got hit by a Mack truck. She was like, excuse me? I'm like, Chad and I over here, we never get tired. Chad grabs me by the shirt like this and he goes, let's go. Mile 75, how do you feel? Outstanding. 77 miles in, he asked me, come on, Wiz, how do you feel? Outstanding. 79, 80, 81, 83, how do you feel? Outstanding. 87, 88, me and Chad, through the woods, nobody around us, with a headlamp, 90 miles in, I don't get tired, Chad. 93, 97, all the way to the finish line of a 100-mile race. The words you speak matter.
Yes.
The words you speak matter. The words your kids speak matter. Listen, I used to walk into my office when I was 21 years old. I used to walk into my office every day, turn to my partner and say, we're millionaires. They just haven't paid us yet. We're millionaires. They just haven't paid us yet. This week, be mindful of the people in your inner circle that say we don't come from money. We're not good at marketing. We're not business owners in our family. Be mindful of the people that say that. How do you feel?
Outstanding!
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 How do you feel? This man called me alive. The words that you speak matter. Listen, we covered a lot. We talked about SIPs, social, intellectual, physical, purposeful, and spiritual. We talked about the importance of pouring your tank into whatever you do and pouring your soul into whatever you do. We talked about complimenting, congratulating, and consoling, putting yourself in situations where you can get lucky. We talked about urgency, putting more on your plate of the things you love to do with the people that you love to do them with. We talked about being a participant and not a spectator, and that business is transactional, relationships are not. And we talked about the power of the spoken word. But I want 2 more minutes to talk about what I came to talk about today. The most important thing of entrepreneurship. Put this up for 1 sec. We'll be out of here in 2 minutes. So I told you guys and girls that I beat my dad in checkers, right? Did I tell you that I beat my dad in checkers? Yeah. What I didn't tell you is that when I beat my father in checkers, he had no idea who I was.
Wow.
So my dad had Alzheimer's.
Wow.
So I would sit at my parents' house for 24 minutes at a time for 5 minutes of clarity. And one of the last times I was at my parents' house, my dad turned to me out of nowhere and said, Jesse, my son, you want to play checkers? And I was like, me? Yes. Jesse? Yes. So I pulled out the checkerboard, and for the first time in my life, I beat my dad in checkers. It was an amazing moment. While I had him in some clarity, I said, Dad, what else do you want to do? He said, son, I will do anything you want to do. My mom had a swimming pool, a little swimming pool. I said, you want to get in the swimming pool? My dad had been in a swimming pool in 15 years. He said, sure. So I put my dad in a bathing suit, I carried him into a chair, and I walked him into the pool. When you have a chance to create a memory or a moment, you take it. When you have a chance to create a memory or a moment, you take it. They interviewed the wealthiest families in the world. $20 million liquid net worth, loaded. And they asked them what was their biggest regret in getting all the money. And overwhelmingly, they all said the same thing. Giving up what they already had, chasing what they wanted. They gave up what they already had, their health, their family, their principles, chasing what they wanted. Don't give up what you have, chasing what you want. It's not worth it. My dad was in hospice. I've never been close to death before in my life. I spent 24 hours, my brother, my two sisters. Today's the anniversary of my sister Jill's passing. My nephew's here today, holding my dad's hand until he passed away. And during this moment, two thoughts, I want to leave you with this, came to my head. The first thing is, I poured my soul into this relationship and so did my dad, so I had no regrets. When you empty the tank, you don't have regrets. And I know everybody here doesn't have an opportunity to do that with their parents, but if you do, empty the tank. And the second thing is, my dad never had this, man. He never had this, but he mastered this. And like I said in the beginning of this talk, if you have $1 billion and your spirit is zero, 1 billion times zero is zero. But if you have $1 and your spirit is 1 billion, $1 times 1 billion is 1 billion. Not everybody in this room is going to get this. Not everybody in this room is going to get this. I gave you the stats. But everybody in this room and your children can master this. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up.